What's up, everybody, man? Welcome back to the Man Cave with myself, Cedric Edison, and my main dude, Ron Serving. What up, dog?
What's up? All
right.
Hey, man, we've been on a little hiatus. Yeah, a little hiatus lately. Just been busy with life and just now here now, being as we are, just two men in the world, just putting it out there, just keeping it real, right? I think that has been our journey as men on this earth. So just really checking in right now, just feeling like this space is where I needed to be, just knowing that we haven't, chatted in a bit. We've got lots to share, and so I'm ready to connect, whatever you're going to throw my way.
Cool. And my bad, y'all, man. Welcome to the show.
Right?
Hey, we appreciate y'all coming. Like, man, let's just jump right in. But nah, we appreciate y'all, man. Just a lot of excitement. So, man, something that's been on my mind, man, I'm interested in knowing, because on this personal development journey, it can be hard sometimes when it comes to relationships and even like when to cut it off, because we're always, we talk a whole lot about looking within and asking, who am I being in this moment? What could I have done differently? But also, it was crossing my mind. I'm like, on that motivational side, like, yo, there are some relationships that's toxic.
Yeah.
But when do we, or where do we draw that line of recognizing, okay, this is not conducive for the lifestyle I want versus let me continue to grow in this because maybe I'm not being who I need to be in the moment. Right. So like, has that kind of come up in your goings about? Like, what's up?
Yeah, for me, I just relationships in general have I wouldn't say have been a challenge for me. There's not a lot of people in my inner circle, a lot of good family friends that I spend a lot of time with. But as far as, lifelong friends, people that have been in my life in the past, back when I got married and where I'm at today, in my career, not a lot of like those relationships that are just kind of hanging on. So for me, I definitely recognize what value people bring to my life. And I think I'm not one that just, absolves people, like saying once you're out of my life, that there's no space for you in my life, period. I think I try to be mindful of just holding that space, not giving them, the energy that I feel like they're looking for from me to, detract from my life. But I guess I try to keep at least some space in the world, in the universe for them to maybe step, forward in their life. But there does come that point where, you're doing nothing for me. You're sucking the freaking life out of me. All these things that you're doing to keep from moving forward is keeping me from moving forward as well, because I'm spending time trying to, give you the support that you don't want. So I think there does come a point where, for me, it's like either in silence, just letting go and not putting in the efforts that I felt like I have in the past, and just letting that relationship go. Or again, just, kind of holding that space for that person that may at some point in their life realize, wow, there was a great friend that I just ignored, that I didn't put in the time, I didn't give back to him that he gave to me. And for me, it's not about like this payback, like what have I, as much as I've done for you, now you owe this to me. But there does come a point where, the toxicity, the lack of connection, the lack of just willingness just to put their self aside and give, me or, that person that they're trying to have a relationship with, throw them a bone, right? Just say, hey man, I'm busy in my life. I apologize for not connecting with you as often as I'd like to. I feel bad. What can I do? Versus just the silence, right? I think that's what I get frustrated is the efforts and the reach outs and the time that I put in to relationships, and then there's just silence. And I know part of it is, they're not ready to grow. They see us or me in my life, having a lot of positive things going on. So I know for people in general when positivity and growth is happening for one person. If somebody else is stuck, you know, they're not moving in that direction. So they're going to be a anchor that's going to pull you away from, not an anchor, I guess more of a weight that's kind of pulling you away. So I don't know. I mean, I try not to put a lot of value on letting go, because I know it's sometimes just a subtle way of just, stopping the contact that I've been, putting out there, because I'm not getting anything in return. But also, at least for me, just at least not like putting them in a place where I'm not willing to, maybe at some point in my life, be able to open up an opportunity to re-engage if that's possible. So, and then I know you've had a lot of relationships that, you've had challenges with, some that you probably hold on to longer than you'd like. So, with you just kind of having, now that you're a parent, now that you're, moving more and more into your coaching, doing all these things in your life, what are the biggest challenges for you? I mean, just knowing that you're kind of, in this transitional period of time, old friends, new friends, where you spend your time, and just the toxicity, like you said, that goes along with it. So I'm just curious for you, what comes up?
Good question. When I think about like some of the old friends, um, it's kind of strange because the reality of it is a lot of the people that I called my friend, well, we still friends, but we just don't communicate. Like the guy I got say is my best friend. We got our very first tattoo together in my mama's bathroom, skipping school one day. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just bought him a house. Ain't doing good, but and so like a lot of my old friends, we don't talk a lot. Um, it's social media. And what I found now is, one, I still haven't navigated or learned how to navigate having a toddler and family and all of that, man. You never have time. You're on his schedule, so but
But
yeah.
I'm sure your definition and your experience with friends has changed, right? Expectations, what you give,
Oh yeah,
what
because
you give to that relationship, and what you don't want to give to that relationship.
yeah, man, and that's kind of why it came up. It was one of those times of reflections, and it kind of came from a place. I was like, damn, man, I don't really have friends, in town. And I was thinking about my kid, and I was like, yo, he gonna need other kids to play around. And then it was, well, I haven't really met a lot of people that I feel like are, and I hate to say it that way, but on my level right now,
Mhm.
you know. And some of the old friends, the reason we don't talk so much, and that's kind of another place it came about too, was just not necessarily seeing what we can do for each other, but it's more so like the conversations that they have.
Mhm.
It's like they're negative, and they just stuck in those loops. And it's like you want to help, but at the same time, you're not just trying to offer all your help, giving little nuggets here, and it's draining. And it's just like, oh my God, like I feel like I'm in coach mode all the time, and we know that can be fucking draining. So,
And there's times, right, where you just want to say, are you willing to actually hear what I feel, right? Ask that permission, just like, and then just be able to be blunt, right? It's like, dude, you're being an ass to me. You're being an ass to people that I know. You're just, you're doing these things that are just toxic in nature. What's going on? I mean, what is the root of your issue? I mean, to be able to get to that point, right? Because there are those friends that we feel like, gosh, I didn't go to that next level of not confrontation, but just real talk about what, because I think for you and me, right, it's like we haven't known each other that long. We don't talk all the time. And friendship doesn't have to be something that is, something you've had for your whole life. It could be something that's, that happens in a very, very quick instance where there's that connection, that realness, that willingness
yeah,
to accept each other for each, for who each other is. And obviously we're quite different in our lives, in our upbringing, in our experiences, all these things. So there's no I think that's where I think people get caught up in, is like, I have to find friends that are just like me, because then I feel like I can be me, versus, find friends that are going to challenge you. Find friends that you feel like you can challenge, that you can say, you know what, no, you're not cutting it. You're bullshitting yourself, you're bullshitting your wife, you're bullshitting your work, to be able to get to that point, right? Because that's when you find out, how valuable and how deep that friendship is, because that could be the make and break, right? To say, fuck you, I'm out of here. I don't need to hear this shit from you. I hear it from everybody else. Well, there's your answer. Here's one more person that's telling you the same thing that you don't want to hear. And that's tough, right? Because, we want to have connections, we want to have friendships, but, I also agree that, if you can have one solid friend for, the duration of your life is very unheard of. Friends come and go, right?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting, man, that I was just kind of thinking, well, we talk about boundaries, you have to have some type of boundaries. And then, we go into the context of being able to say no, right? So, and I guess this goes into a question of how, how would one go about getting new friends when you have these boundaries and now you witness this person outside of, boom, you can't come past this safeguard I got right here, this boundary, and you're observing this. So how would you go about creating that?
Right.
Because it's almost like you could almost, and I guess you just got to play the numbers game, because I guess it's almost safe to say we can find fault in everybody. We can find some thing that could get really close to that boundary to where I can say, nope, you don't belong in my circle. And at what point are we just being too fucking judgmental versus, being concrete to ourselves, to what we stand for?
Right. Well, I think in asking those questions that might not feel right, right? It's like, what value do I bring to our relationship? Ask that question. What do you feel as my friend of that value that I bring to you? I'm just curious on what makes you feel like being a part of my life is important. And then, hear what he has to say or she has to say. And then vice versa. It's like, allowing them to ask you that question, because then sometimes we might realize, wow, I'm not bringing any value to this relationship, or the value that I thought I was bringing to the relationship is not even what's important. It's something that's completely different that I had no idea. And I think we guess at that sometimes, right? We assume that by calling all the time or by liking their post on Facebook or whatever it might be, it's like, wow, they must really like me, or I must really be their friend because they like everything that I put out there.
Right.
But I guess if you ask that in person, from their heart, it's like, what is really the true value that I bring to your life? Because I'm curious, because I feel like I want to be value. I want to be of value for you. And if I'm really wanting to feel like I'm doing that, I want to make sure that we're in some sort of alignment of what you're experiencing versus what I feel like I'm putting out there. And that can be a scary place, right? Because, we feel like the person we're being is exactly what this person wants to experience. But I think we have to be willing to say, you know what? There's also something about how you devalue my life, because you're always just the naysayer, or, you don't return my phone calls when I call and ask you to call me back, or, you cap on my girlfriend, or whatever it is, or you talk about my mom, or, whatever that might be. I think those are the questions we're not necessarily willing to ask. But if we're going to decide, that we no longer want to have a relationship with this person as a friend, we're going to kind of not cast them aside, but not spend as much time and energy to put into that, because there's others that we want to engage with, asking those difficult questions, right? And I think hearing those ourselves, not just, asking a question that's not also asking us the same time. It's like, wow, I'm asking this question. It's like, I can't even answer that question, really,
Yeah, I think, man, that's crazy. Because you have to ask those questions, because I want a friend that's going to be there through the thick and thin, So it's almost like an interview, not just question, but I need to see if we're a good fit or not in the beginning. Um, so man, that's interesting. So let's say we go down there, we have the courage to ask those questions because I need more from friendships, right? And now you come to the conclusion that this person, you're not a good fit, you know? Do you have that conversation? Or is it something that you find yourself just solidly letting them go?
I'm probably more the silent type, which has its pros and cons, right? You know, I'm more of the introvert or the one that
Avoid the situation type shit.
kind of sucks it up and moves on. But there's times where I wish that I would say something. You know, I think there's been times in my story, if I went back of, you know, am I good enough, lesser than, you know, all these things that, you know, that I know back in my, you know, childhood challenges that I went through. You know, when I say that, it's like, oh, you know, here I've got a friend that likes me for something. And it's like, no, it's like, I can be my own best friend. I can walk through this earth as my own best friend, and having, you know, my family and those that do care for me and provide a lot of impact in my life. I'm okay with that, but I also see how having friendships, I mean, even like our friendship, I mean, just to be able to, you know, talk periodically and just keep it real. We don't have to superficially talk about just the things that are feel good, like how are the Saints doing, or, you know, how's the weather there. I mean, those are all cool things to bring up in conversation, but it's more like, you know, what's your biggest challenge with Messiah right now? How are things going in your relationship, you know, in relations to, you know, fathering and having a, you know, somebody else that's also partaking in raising your child, you know, how's that going? I mean, those aren't questions that we typically want to dive into, but for friendship wise, hell yeah, I want to dive into those. It's
Or
like,
like how you hit me before the call. I was like, hey, yo, this is what we did. Like, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how's your life?
right?
Like, how often do you have that fucking conversation with people? You know, and it's like, oh, this for real, you know?
Well, it's like waking up in the morning and ending the day. It's like asking those questions. Like, it's like, you know, right? Who added value to my life today? And
Right.
and who did I add value to in my life today? And then, you know, is there people that I didn't, that I should, that I need to then wake up in the morning and actually take action on that? Or are there those that just hurt me today, didn't give me what I thought they might, you know, should give me, and call them out? Or do I slowly let that kind of dissipate and realize that's just a superficial friend that I don't have to be, doesn't have to be my enemy, but I know I shouldn't expect something that they're not able or not willing to give me.
Yeah. Sorry, sorry.
Don't cry, dude. It's all right.
Aw.
Dude, it's only been a couple weeks since we talked. It'll be all right, dude.
I know, man. I'm crybaby. This is a good movie, by the way.
But I think that's a great topic, right? Because, you know, I don't have a wide circle of friends that aren't just close family friends. You know, I've got a lot of people that you know, in the coaching world, in life, that I can say are more acquaintances than they are friends. Is like, how do you categorize, or what brings people from acquaintance to friend or close friend? Or, you know, what are the criteria that we set up in our own mind or experience to really develop that hierarchy of friendships, right?
Mm, that's interesting. I think to go that Ascension would probably, I know for me, it's more of a connection thing. You know, we can connect and be on that level to where, and I guess we're acquaintances because we're like-minded, you know, and so we got that in common. But I think the friendship part comes from just that connection.
Mhm. Well, I think we know there's more to come too. It's like we know, based on our experiences and how we communicate, that there's just so many more things that we don't even know how our lives are going to intertwine. And I think
Yeah,
that's just a nice peaceful feeling. To We don't have to put a lot of pressure on. It's like, oh, I got to call Cedric every week or every day to make sure he's okay, and that he, you know, that he hears me in my voice. It's more like we could go a couple of weeks of not talking and pick up right where we left off, and bring in something new, or in between, it's like, dude, I'm struggling right now. I really need you to call me immediately because there's something on my mind I need to share. Because I know my phone's going to ring. And I think that's where, whether it's a 20-year relationship or a 2-year relationship, I think you should be looking at what value each other is bringing to that situation, and have that conversation, right? I think that's what we, especially as men, we don't oftentimes feel like we need to be, like asking those, more feminine questions like, well, how are you feeling? Or, what is that? How does that make you, what is the emotions that are going on along with that, right? We're told just, button up and just suck it up, and, all these things that keeps us closed off versus just being open. I think that's where, I think friendships are much more available to men and women as a result of just being ourselves.
Yeah. It's probably why women happier, because they have more friends. They talk more.
I don't know if women are happier. I think they just usually have better overall social skills to at least, open up a conversation, and I wouldn't even say keep it real, but they're willing to, dive into topics that we don't typically feel as easy, because probably more of the, the stereotypical man that's, not supposed to, gossip or not gossip, but just not supposed to just be, show emotions and feel emotions and share emotions, all these things. So
Stop being soft.
right? I'm like a little freaking marshmallow, dude.
Right.
But I can harden up. Stiff marshmallow.
How you gonna be a Marine and talk about feelings? Like what?
Wow, this is a great topic, man. I love the fact that, because friendships are something that, again, come and go. If I look back in my life and just kind of sum up my experience during this conversation, just being open for me, just being open to what friendships might still be in my future, not feeling like I need to have a certain quantity of friends. It's more about the quality of friends that I have. And asking, as I mentioned it to you, and I'm hearing myself say it, I don't oftentimes ask those questions to myself. So for me, kind of my takeaway today is, asking that question: what value am I bringing to this friendship, and what value are they bringing to me in my relationship? And being real with that, and not still, I'm still more of like, I don't cast people away. I'm still open. I think that's just kind of who I am. But for you, the listener, ask yourself those questions. If you're trying to really understand what type of friend you are, who's in your front row, people that you maybe need to, not allow to, suck the energy out of you, what actions are you taking in your life to either have that conversation or not, and how you're moving forward to just open yourself up for relationships that may be right in front of you, that you're just, not creating the opportunity and space for that to happen. So I challenge you as a listener just to, really tap into every moment of your life and just ask that question. What action what do I want out of this situation? You're sitting in front of somebody across from you. Maybe you just met. Maybe you've been working with somebody for 5 years. Maybe you've got somebody, somebody that you're having a relationship with. You ask yourself in that moment, what do I want out of this next moment with this person?
Yeah.
Pretty simple question, but see what comes up.
Yeah. Y'all, I think Ron had hit that nail on the head. I know that was a big one for me. Is my takeaway is like, I was like, yo, I don't really think I've sat back and asked myself often enough, what value am I bringing to this person's life? So I think that's a real big takeaway. And like you say, ask those questions, because they're important. If the relationship is important, then those questions are important, because that lets you know what type of relationship it's going to be. Is it going to be buddy? Am I a taker? Am I a giver? Are we meeting on a plane, on a level? All of that. So that will definitely be my takeaway, is to be more courageous in asking those questions, and focusing on what do I bring to this person, and how can I change that? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as much, what they're bringing to the table, because I can find out how to use whatever it is they're bringing if need be. But my main focus should be on how am I helping them, or what we have, how can I help that? So I appreciate that. Yeah. Pretty good one, man. I don't know what's going on with my lighting today, man. I feel looks like I'm super dark or something, or grainy.
You almost look black.
I know. No, I'm gonna have the talk now.
Good to see you, man. It's been a little bit, and then I hope you listeners that have been, kind of waiting for the next episode have been patient with us. Sometimes life happens, and we appreciate each and every one of you that chime in, listen in, all the above as far as what you mean to us in our lives, and just us putting this out there as two men in the world, just sharing our vulnerable selves.
Yeah, appreciate it. The space, I appreciate y'all coming on, spending a little bit of time with us. All of that. We don't know what it's gonna look like, but we like it. Man, it's been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. This has been a good one today. It's been a good one.
All right.
See y'all next week. Peace.